Hi guys, welcome to week four in class practice. So I'll go through the Excel sheet for week four in class practice and go through all these steps. So I'll just start um, and let me share my screen. So if you want to access the in-class practice, you can go to the website here and in the assignments, uh, under in-class practice, you can access the in-class practice by week here and you'll see the previous in-class and whatever in-class practices we have published. So week four, um, if you open here, so we have data on central bank governors here. And the data set, it looks like, it has different countries, and it ranges from 2016 to 2018. And for each country, we have uh, time to turnover in the central bank governor's appointment. So how much time was left in there to for a new appointment to come, and then if there was a turnover in that year, and how many turnovers were there in the year, and then what is the legal duration of the tenure? So like what does the law say that how long can the central bank governor stay in their position? Um, so this is the question set. So I'm going to be working on the in class E set. Um, so the data, yeah. So basically, the data looks like this, and if you sort it here by country, um, you can see that for each year, so there are 3 years for each country, like the recording observation. And for each country, you can see the values. So let's delve into the and this kind of data, you know, uh, we've altered it to remove any missing values, and the time span has been reduced because where we're pulling the data, it spans a number of years. So it's always good to pre-process your data. We have pre-processed it, but still there will be more processing that we'll do to, extract summary statistics and other statistics of importance. So let's go into the practice questions. So first question is like to calculate summary statistics, minimum, maximum, average, and standard deviation by country for these two following variables, time to turnover and number of turnovers. So, what you can do is, in this case, for summary statistics, it's always a good idea to have pivot tables, and pivot tables can be very helpful in creating data set for like analyzing data set. So the way you input pivot tables is you first select the data that you want to include in your pivot tables. So we want the whole data set. So we'll select the whole data set, and as I said, you can, if you want to select the whole data set, you click on the first cell from where it starts, and then you can select Control A, and Excel will automatically recognize where the whole data set spans to and where it ends. So it ends here, right? So it will select the whole data set. And once you have that, um, you can go here and say insert and go and select pivot table. And if you can create a new sheet for this pivot table, or you can create it in an existing sheet. So we will create it on a new sheet. And this is the data range that you're giving the pivot table. So you can create the pivot table without selecting data, but give the a range manually, or you can select the data and then input. So once you create, what will happen is it will create this pivot table. And the way that works is pivot table is it's very customizable. So you can add what kind of rows do you want, what columns do you want, what values do you want, right? So um, so that is a way to create this pivot table. So because you're working in Google Sheets, so it's giving some suggestions, but we want to ignore that. So what we want to do is we want to have, uh, if you go to the practice question, so we want to have the a column by country, and then we want to have like indicators, like time to turnover, and we want to have like the minimum, maximum, average, uh, for both these turnovers, for both these, sorry, variables. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add like country. So if you add country to row here, it will add all the countries, right? Um, and so this is a very neat way, right? And you can also like, select the sorting order you want to do descending or ascending. The next thing we want is we want the minimum, maximum, and average and standard deviation of these. So in pivot table, the way data is arranged, it's not possible to. So if I put, let's say we want to do time to turnover, and if I put that in row, what it will do is it will it will create a hierarchy. So you have the country, and within that you have the time to turnover, um, for for each, and this is like, these are the values for time to turnover, and if you, and these correspond to a certain year, right? So I haven't added the year variable. So, and so it's not possible to find the maximum, minimum here like that. But if you put the same variable into values, now you can play with the values a lot. So you can have the sum of those values, you can have the, so you can have the minimum of those values, and you can have the maximum of those values. So this is one way to do it. So what we are going to do is, because you want the four different types of statistics, so you want the minimum, we want the maximum, we want the average. So we have the minimum here, right? So the next thing we can do is we can have the maximum. So you just go here, change the sum to maximum. This is the maximum. Oh, and um, and then we add and we say, okay, what's the average? And then we add again and we say, what's the um, standard deviation, right? And so we do this. So this is, we got four values uh, for this variable time to turnover. Now, obviously, it doesn't look like the format of this. So we're going to do further transformation, but at least with pivot table, we are able to get these summary statistics and, in an order, right? And so similarly, we can add the other variable, number of turnovers, and do the same thing. So we do minimum, maximum, and so I've created this summary sheet here. So this is what it is supposed to look like. This is another pivot table. There's the same thing there. So it has 8 columns uh, right now, and so for each variable, like time to turnover, I have the minimum, maximum, average, standard deviation, and similarly for number of turnover, minimum, maximum, average, and standard deviation. So this is what it's supposed to look like. Now, obviously, as I said, this doesn't look like in this format. So now what we want to do, if we want to bring it into the format that we want to bring it in, we're going to work with this summary sheet, which I've already created, which has all the data. Um, so we want the data to be in the format like this, where you have the, so let's actually, we have the number of turnover and time to turnover, and values minimum, maximum for that. And so this is the format that you want to, and obviously this is the answer key. So I'm going to show you how to build that. So if you want to build that, let's actually put another sheet in, And what you want is you want the country, right? So you want the country, you want the indicator, you want the minimum, you want the maximum, you want the average, and you want the standard deviation, right? So for country, what you can do is you can go to the pivot table here and just copy paste all the countries that there and excluding the grand total. And just copy paste here. And the indicator that you have is the first indicator is time to turnover, right? And you can just copy paste this down too. So you want, so now here's where you can use the VLOOKUP function. And we covered this in the last class in class practice. So I'm not going to go into the detail of that again. But so what you're trying to do in the VLOOKUP function is that you're first trying to say, okay, which value do you want to look up uh, in another table or wherever you want to. So this is the country that you want to look up. And where do you want to look? So we want to look it into this summary sheet. And we want to look through all these uh, values, right? So these are all the values you want to look at from. And so we want the minimum. Oh, what happened? So we want the minimum here, right? Um, and minimum of time to turnover, right? So in VLOOKUP, what we do is, so this was the value that you want to, the country that you want to match. These are all the values that you want to look from. But once we find the match, which column do we want the value to be returned from? Because for it will find Afghanistan, and then where do you, because there are eight values right here from Afghanistan. So which value do we want? We want this value from minimum of time to turnover. And which column it is? It is column number two in this data set in the range. So it's very important that the range that you are setting within that, it is column number two. If you select the range from another range, like you don't start from A5, you start from B5 to, you say, okay, B, you go from column B to J, then this is your for number one column. This is not your second column because your data range is that like that. So right now your data range is from A5 to column A to J. So within that data range, this is your second column that you want the value to be returned from. So it is number two, and we want the exact match. So we will say false, right? And so it will do that. And so you can drag and drop down this, and it will pull the values, right? For each country. Now, similarly, for the max, we can copy the same formula, and paste it. And in this case, we just want it from the third column, right? Because the second column was minimum, the next column was maximum. So we can just change the value here, right? And do the same thing. And again for average. So now it would be number fourth column, right? And we can copy paste it. And standard deviation would be number fifth column, right? Now, so this is one of your variable is done, right? But you also want another variable, which is number of turnover. So you can copy and paste all the countries again, right? And you can say number of turnovers, number of turnover, and you can just copy paste this to, oh, just drag and drop down till the last value. And now you're doing the same thing. Again, you're applying the same formula for VLOOKUP. But this time, if you go to the summary sheet, Now, you're looking for the same values, but now, so till fifth column, we got the standard deviation of, so now we will pull the value from the sixth column, right? So we want the value from the sixth column, but now we're also restarting the VLOOKUP formula. So now we are starting again from this country, right? So we are going to, what we can do is we can take the formula from the first, oh, sorry. We can take the formula from this first row that we built, right? And you can come down here and put this formula, change A2 to this, right? And now we want it from the sixth column, right? So we got it. And now we can just drag and drop this. Similarly, we can do the same thing as we did, repeat the process. And now we want it from seventh column. And similarly, now we want it from eighth column. And now we want it from ninth column, right? So, and so this is the sheet that you wanted to build in this. So this is the, this is now we have the sheet in this format. Um, and now these are summary statistics, and it's important because I have this in have created this sheet here. So let's just use that. And so this sheet allows us to see the minimum, maximum, average, standard deviation, and the pivot table is also important, and it can help you do very quick analysis. But we wanted to learn this display data in this format for your quantitative exam and just demonstrate the ability to use VLOOKUP and perform the analysis. So yeah, so this is what it looks like, and then you can apply the filter on it on the sheet. So let me go back here and do that so Um, so these are so you can select all the data, and then you can say create a filter, and then you can start, filtering, or you can start sorting the data. And then you can also, like, if you don't want so many decimals, you can set the number of decimals for average, and set the number of decimals for standard deviation. And then if you want, like, just data of time to turnover, and not number of, sorry, not just number of turnover. So you can start playing with that. Uh, right. Okay. So that was question number one. So now you use this data to answer other questions. So what is the maximum time to regular turnover? What is the average value of actual turnovers in year 2017? So now you want to see what is the maximum time to regular turnover, right? So you can go to the sheet, um, and what you want to do is you want to search for maximum time to turnover. So first you can filter, and you can just have turnover time, right? Once you have that, now you can sort by maximum. And if you sort by maximum, you can sort Z to A, and you see this is the maximum time to turnover in any year, and these are the countries which had it. So it's seven, right? So you go here and you say, okay, the maximum time to turnover is 7 years. Okay, and it's saying what is the average time. So the other question was, what is the average value of actual turnovers in year 2017? So for this, you can also use the pivot table, because sometimes it's quicker to use the pivot table. So if you go here in the pivot table, so this is now showing the data from all the years. And if you go down and you go the average of, to go to this column of average of time turnover, you can see um, it says minus 61. That's because there are some values they have coded which are So there's a value called if you go to this sheet, you will see here. Actually, let's first filter by number of turnovers. You'll see that some countries have um this value of minus 771. Now, this value indicates that it's not like obviously it is a code for another value. So this means that and we'll cover this later, but this basically means that the governor was reappointed instead of changing. Uh, so that is why this value is messing up. So now you need to take care of this, right? So either you can change this value or you can say, okay, I don't want um, this value included. So what you can do is first, and our question asked that in 2017, right? So what you can do is one thing that you can do in pivot table, it's very neat, is that you can put filters. So if you go here and you say, okay, I want a filter for year. So you can just select and drop it here. So I've already have the filter here. Actually, let me show you on the sheet that we created. So we can go here and we can say, okay, I want a filter for year and I only want 2017. So now it will just show the data from 2017. And um, I just want, um, so number of turnovers, and I also want a filter on the number of turnovers so I can exclude certain um certain type of values. I haven't added sorry, I haven't added turnovers in this sheet, so let me go back to this original pivot, right? Let me first okay. So I want to say that I also want to add a filter of number of turnovers. So again, I can exclude that minus 771 value, right? So I put it here and I say, okay, don't give me the minus 771 value, right? And then you select that. And so now if you come, let's remove that. And now if you come to this average of number of turnovers and you see here that your average is 0.156 for the year 2070, right? So you can answer that. Um, I think I inputted the wrong answer. So 0.156, right? So that is your average. Um, Now, so find the minimum and maximum values of the legal tenure limit. Again, you can go to the pivot table, or you don't even need to go to the pivot table here. You can use the minimum and maximum formula from your original data set. So if you go here, what you need to do is you need to put the formula minimum, right? And which from where do you want the minimum? You want it from the original data set, and you want it on this legal tenure column. So you can select this column and range of, you can select all this range, right? And it's going to find you the minimum. And it is minus 66,666, which means that there's no minus 666 here is a code for meaning that there's no actual term limit. The central bank governor can stay for as long as the government wants, right? So, and what is the maximum? So you change the formula to max and same, and maximum is 8, right? So you can use the minimum and maximum formula, or you can go to the sheet here and you can also like sort the data by legal tenure limit. And you can say, okay, what's Z2A? So you'll see, okay, 8. And otherwise you can say A to Z, which is minus 66, right? So that's another way of doing it, right? And then based on the code book provided below, how would you interpret the values of minus 666 and minus 771, right? So you go here and this is the code book provided. So minus 666, it means indefinite term of office. And -771, it means first reappointment. So basically, what it means is -666, it means that uh, there's no legal limit for a regular turnover. So, like, how countries have like 8 years, 7 years, 6 years. The country has net set no limit. So there's no time to turn over. Like, it just depends on the government whenever they want to change someone. And -771, it means that if that shows up, that means that the country in question reappointed the incumbent governor for the first time. So there was a governor who was serving and he's just been reappointed. So let's say if it was US and it was Jerome Powell, who's our Fed governor right now, and if like he's reappointed after his term, I think 4 years term. So if he's reappointed for the first time, then his value would show as -771, right? So that's question number one. Now, question number two. So, which country has the longest limited legal tenure, not indefinite? So, of central bankers. So this is just again like the maximum legal tenure, but you just want to find the country also associated with it. So again, you can go here and you can sort this to Z2A, and it is for 8 years. The maximum was 8 years, and it is Germany. And this value is repeating it because you do, for every year the limit remains the same because you're unless the law is changed from 2016 to 2017, the limit is the same, right? So it is Germany. So your uh answer would be Germany has the longest tenure limit. And the second question was, okay, so which countries are tied for the longest time to regular turnover in 2018? Um, so longest time to turnover, right? So this is your time to turnover, and you want for 2018, right? Um, 2018, yes. So what you can do is you can just filter the year by 2018 here. And you can now sort the data from time to turnover to Z2A. So in 2018, Finland and Macedonia have time to turnover at 7. So that is the maximum. So they both are tied for 7 years. So that is your answer. Like Finland and Macedonia have the longest time to turnover value for year 2018. So if you go here, Finland and Macedonia. And so to be create a pivot table to show how many times central governors were reappointed and which countries and in what years did this happen. So now what you're trying to do is you're trying to answer the question. Basically, you're looking for that -771 value. How many times did it appear? That means that the governor was reappointed. So how many times did this happen? So you can do this through a pivot table, and it would be, it would be quick to do that analysis. You can also go and do that here. Also, you can filter for um, so let's first select all three, and you can say number of turnovers, and you can search for only -771, and this is going to give you the answer, right? This is all the countries and years. Um, but you can also do it through a pivot table. Um, and sometimes if you want to analyze a bunch of different values, or it's a very long table, so you might want a pivot table for that. And so what you can do is, if you come here, so I already have this created, but I'll put another pivot table. So you can insert pivot table here, and you can now specify a same range. Um, so you can use the data back. So the good thing with Google Sheet is it will suggest you. So we want the data on set repository. We want the whole data, right? And we want to put oh, sorry. So we select this data range, and we want to put this in existing sheet, and we want to put it here, right? So this will create. So what you want is we want the number of turnover in the row, right? Because that is the value we're looking for. So it will give you all three values. And we just want a count of these values, right? So we want just a count of these values. So we can put this number of turnovers into values now, and we can change this to count. So this will tell you, okay, minus 771 appeared 7 times. So this 7 times there was a reappointment, and you can check that here. You can say, does this happen 7 times? Yes, 7 times, right? So if you go here and you say question number two, yes. And you can also now add this number of turnover to filter. And you can say, I want to filter it for just the minus 771 value, right? Now, if you want the countries and the year, so what you can do is you can start adding rows to it. So if you put the year here, it will tell you in 2016 two times this happened, and in 2018 5 times this happened. So this is basically in pivot table. This is building in a hierarchy. So minus 7 to 71 value, and it appeared uh, in 2016 and 2018, and now we want the countries. For which countries did it happen? So now you can add another row for the countries, and so it will tell you, okay, in 2016 it happened um in Malta and Papua New Guinea, and one times, and in 2018 it happened in these five countries. So this is another way to do this analysis. Um, and I have the table here created the same thing. So we're just going to uh, delete this pivot table, right? So that is your question number 2B. So now, question number 3. So we want to, it asks to build a frequency table for legal tenure limit. So because we have a bunch of values for legal tenure limit, there are a bunch of countries which are doing it. They have a bunch of different values. So we want to do a frequency table. And again, for this, you can use pivot table. So if you go here, I have the pivot table here, but let's put it, in again somewhere here just to show you. So um, we go again, insert pivot table, and we say existing sheet. We give it the data value again. You want to use the whole data, and we want to put it here, right? So now what we want is we want a frequency table. So what does frequency table has? It has what is the legal limit and what are the count for it, right? So we put the legal tenure duration in rows. So there are seven distinct values. Minus 666 means there's no limit. 3 years limit, 4 years limit, 5 years limit, 6 years limit, 780. And now we want to see how many times does this appear, right? So we can just go here and we can put legal tenure to values, and we can say, okay, give me a count. So 36 countries have no. Oh, and again, because we have the data from 2016, 2018, so this is repeating, right? So, but we want, for each country, one value is enough, right? So we want to filter it for 2016. So we'll pick the year here, and we'll go and filter, and we'll say we would just want it for 2016. So 12 countries have no limit. 4 countries have 3 years limit. 13 countries have 4 years limit, and 8 countries have 1 year. Only one country has 8 year limit. So this is your frequency table. So now the next question is, okay, what is the mode of the distribution? So mode essentially is which value appears the most times. So I'm just going to delete this pivot table because I've already created it up there. I just wanted to show you. So this is the pivot table that we have. So and five legal tenure of 5 years that happens in most of the countries, 49 countries. So this is your mode of distribution, right? And then what was the other question? which countries had the highest number of turnovers from 2016 to 2018. So now you can have another pivot table for this. And basically, what you want to answer is you want to get a sum of turnovers over all years for each country and see which has the highest. So I have the pivot table here. Um, so if you open edit, so what I have in the pivot table here is that I put the country, right, in rows. So it gives me the country, and I put the number of turnovers. Um, I put the number of turnovers in the values, right? And I say, give me a sum of turnovers, right? And so it will give me a sum. So Angola had two turnovers in those 3 years. Afghanistan had zero turnovers. And I also want to put a filter on this turnovers because I don't want this -771, right? Because it doesn't, it just means reappointment. It doesn't have to do with turnover. So I want to exclude that. So it will exclude it. And I can also say, okay, if I want to do an analysis and I want to say, okay, um, let me put a legal limit, legal tenure duration to the to a column. Mm, what happened here? Oh no, sorry. Legal limit to uh, and again, legal limit is because it's adding up the values from those 3 years. So that doesn't make sense. So you can either pick maximum or minimum because it will be the same, right? Because your law is not changing, right? So you can say, okay, maximum. So Afghanistan has a 5 years of legal limit. Um, so you can say that Angola had like two turnovers, but it has a legal limit of 5 years. So that means that obviously, you know, at least one central governor did not fulfill his full legal tenure limit because how can you have like two turnovers in 3 years if the legal limit is 5 years, right? So you can do this. But the question was that what is the which countries had the highest turnovers, right? So what you ideally want to do is you want to sort this table. Um, Let me remove. So you want to sort, oh, you want to sort this table and get the highest number of sum of number of turnovers at the top, right? Um, if you use that in Excel, it allows you to sort this, but I don't know why it's not allowing in the Google Sheet. So what you can simply do is you can just copy paste this formula. Sorry, copy paste this table, and I had it here. So it's just, oh no. So actually, let me first remove this. Don't get confused. Yeah. Um, and so you don't do Control C and V because it will just copy paste the whole pivot table and keep it in a pivot table format. So what you want is you want to paste the values only, right? And so it is selected. So now what you can do is you can say, okay, create a filter, and now you can sort this to Z to it. So you don't want the sorry, I should have removed the grand total. You don't want the grand total. But Angola, Ghana, Malaysia, and Venezuela and Yemen Republic have had two turnovers in those 3 years. So they have the highest number of turnovers. So that is your answer basically. Angola, Ghana, Malaysia, Venezuela, right? And yeah. So this is basically what how you can use pivot tables and sorting. Um, Question number four. Okay, so create a frequency distribution chart for the legal tenure limit for year 2016. So remember we did this frequency distribution table. So what you can do is you can just copy and paste this and you can come here and uh, paste this data here and you can say paste special and values only. I already pasted, but I'm doing it again. And this minus 666 is indefinite, right? And so you would want that at the end of the table and not at the start, right? And so what you can do is you can select this whole and you can rename this column. So you can say frequency and legal tenure duration, and you can select this. So to insert a chart, you can say insert, go to chart, and for this frequency, you can simply do a column chart. And this will give you a frequency chart because you already have the data in frequency. So you can just put a column chart. So this is what the frequency looks like. The mode is 5, obviously, right? And now you can use this frequency chart to answer other questions. So, um, is the distribution symmetrical, right skewed, left skewed? So if you look at here, it's not symmetrical. It's sort of like left skewed because there are less values on the left side, and then there are more values on the right side, and then you obviously have the indefinite. Mm. So it's a little bit left skewed, and for this question, do not perform addition by looking only at the frequency distribution, or histogram. This is a frequency distribution, not histogram. Sorry. Looking at the frequency distribution chart, would you say that the mean is higher than the median, or is the median higher than the mean? And if you look at this distribution, because it's left skewed, sorry, because it's left skewed, um, in left skewed data, the your median is higher than the mean, because you have more values on the right side. Um, so your median would be on the right side, but your mean would be towards because of these values on the left side, your mean would be pulled sort of pulled towards the left side, right? And um so you can have like and you can also like test this, um but you'd have to remove the indefinite because it has a value of minus 666. So you don't want that to be included. So what you can do is um, you can go to this table, actually remove clear the select all four, right? And you can say, I don't want the indefinite here, right? And now you can select all these values. Actually, what you can do is you can come here and okay, let's put the formula here. So you want average of your data here. Oh, no, sorry. You would also do filter on the year because you don't want these values to be repeating because they do repeat. So you would want, or you can just select 2016, and then you want an average of these values. So you want it from, so K8 till, so like I think, yeah, so Basically, you cannot do that here because, even after you have applied the filter, those values are here. So if you give the range, it will include all those values. So what you can do is you can just simply copy paste all these values, bring them here, and just copy paste them here. And now you can say, okay, give me an average of all these values. Oh, sorry, we're using the wrong. So your average is 5.336, and you can also then find the median for all these values. And your median is 5. Hmm. Yeah, sorry. I think I mixed it up. In this case, your median and sorry, it's the other way around. So your median would be higher than your mean would be higher than uh your median, because you have like a bulk of values uh here also. So yeah, so your median would be higher than your mean. Sorry, your mean would be higher than your median. Yeah. So you can also test this in your data, right? Sorry, I made that mistake. Yeah. So yeah, so this is what you can do. And yeah, so these are all the questions, and I hope like you were able to understand what I was doing. And obviously, I'm going to go through this in class also, and you can ask questions there. But you can go through the sheet. I've also laid out the steps and functions for um, each each question, and how to insert pivot tables and how to make those pivot tables. So if you don't understand, you can also go through these steps. And I hope like this was helpful for you. So yeah, thank you, and I wish you a good day. Thank you, and bye.